know, Charles. After all, you're in the same business.
Different ends of the same business, dear lady, in his best actor-laddie voice. I am an actor in the legitimate theatre. These are mere variety artistes. Oh, things haven't been the same since equity merged with that variety lot.
It comes to the same thing, really. It's just different forms of showing off.
With that attitude to my art, it's hardly surprising that you weren't the ideal wife for me.
But it was said without malice, just teasing. How long was it since they'd been sufficiently relaxed together to tease each other?
Anyway, who else is on the bill?
Good God, programs these days get more and more advertisements and less about the show.
Ah, here we are. Just between ladies for the very best in modern hairdressing go to Doritos and after the show, why not enjoy the best tandoori chicken on the East Coast? Oh, now, who is that? We start with These Foolish Things, whatever they may be. Then Caramba and Judy, Vita Maureen, accompanied by Norman Del Rosa, Mixed Bathing, Lennie Barber, and... Good God, that couldn't be Lennie Barber of Barber and Pole, could it?
Of who?
Oh, come on, Francis. Even with your limited knowledge of show business, you must remember Barber and Pole. All those radio shows after the war. And then telly. The Barber and Pole shows. It was one of the first big variety shows on the box in the 50s. You must remember.
Oh, yes, I do. That's right, they had all those terrible catchphrases.
Charles dropped into a gormless Lancastrian accent. Beg pardon?
Of course, your party trick.
Yes, my one and only show business impersonation. Wilkie Pole of Barber and Pole. I used to do it all the time.
You can say that again, particularly when you were drunk.
It's all coming back. What was that other catchphrase Pole had? Yes. Again, the accent. You're rushing me.
I remember that one, too. God, it seems a long time ago.
It was.
Why'd they break up, Charles?
Barber and Pole? Well, Wilkie Pole died right at the peak of their popularity. Late 50s. Then I seem to remember they tried to launch Lennie Barber on his own, but it just didn't work.
What's he done since then?
I don't know. Kept reading about him in the papers in the early 60s. Bad publicity, mostly. Divorce, arrests for drunkenness, that sort of thing. All the symptoms of a successful career suddenly gone wrong. Then nothing. I suppose he's been on the bottle ever since. And who knows, maybe touring the clubs all that time, going lower and lower down the league. What a way to end up, though. If it is the same Lennie Barber, playing way down the bill to some jumped-up comic nobody's heard of. But everybody will have heard of him soon. Charles and Francis turned in surprise to the voice from the row behind. Sorry to have been rubbernecking, Charles. I couldn't believe it was you.
Good heavens, Walter Proud. How are you?
Charles reached out, and the two men shook hands. You know, Francis, don't you, my wife, he concluded with some surprise. Of course I know, Francis.
The man leaned across and kissed her effusively, enveloping her in the fumes of a rather good lunch.
From Francis's expression, she didn't share the recognition. Charles came to the rescue. Walter's a television director at the BBC. I worked with him on... You're out of date, Charles. I left the Beeb last year. We, didn't see eye to eye. I've gone over to the other side, gone commercial.
What? You're part of the brain drain?
On the staff of one of the... No, freelance. I'm only on a 3-month contract at the moment as a producer. But if the project I'm on goes well, it's bound to lead to other things.
Sounds good. You enjoying it?
Well, do you know Paul Royce?
The producer indicated a dark young man who was studying the programme by his side. No, I don't. Hello, I'm Charles Paris. Hi.
Paul's one of the brightest new writers I've come across for some time, straight out of, where was it? Oxford?
Cambridge.
Yes, and already been nominated for a UEF award for his first series. Radio thing, of course. Did you ever hear the Three-Legged Giraffe Show?
The Two-Legged Giraffe Show. Paul Royce corrected testily. Charles said sorry. He didn't listen to the radio that much, and anyway, what the hell was Walter doing at a matinee of a summer show in Hunstanton? Ah, Charles, that brings me back to where I interrupted you. We've come down to see Bill Peaky. The project on which I'm working is a 50-minute special with him. Bound to go to a series, should be very big. Paul here is going to be doing some writing for the show. Not if Mr. Peaky thinks the same of the rest of my material as he did of the first batch I sent, Paul Royce injected sourly. Proud was momentarily thrown. Well, that remains to be seen, eh? But, Charles, have you really not heard of Bill Peaky? Afraid not. He came out in New Faces. Eh? The talent show that ATV do. He won the All Winners. I tell you, he's a very hot property, going to be very big. We're going to see him after the show, talk about our series. Music tinkled upwards from the pit. Most of the pensioners had been tucked into their seats. The show would be starting in a moment. Charles felt he should say something else and flicked through his mind for subjects. Oh, yes, domestic life. Angela and the girls, well, Walter? Angela and I got divorced 2 years ago. Oh, I'm sorry. Best thing, probably. I still see the girls at weekends. Sometimes. Work and things permitting. Ah. Glad to see you and Francis are still together anyway. Yes, yes. Francis's hand found Charles's. He could feel it trembling with a suppressed giggle. The lights began to dim and the noise from the pit grew louder. Walter leaned forward and hissed, "See you in the interval for a drink, eh? And maybe after the show we could go out for a meal or something." Charles remembered from their previous acquaintance that Walter suffered from the television man's terror of being alone, the need to surround himself with people, to buy company with interminable expense account drinks, to extend every convivial evening as long as possible. He didn't take up the hint about a meal afterwards, but commented on the chance of an interval drink. Likely to be tea, isn't it? Bars won't be open for a matinee, will they? Oh, no, they won't. Walter Proud leaned back in his seat. No. He sounded deeply disappointed, and Charles identified the smell that he'd been conscious of since his conversation with the producer began. Neat gin. The curtain of the Winter Gardens, Hunstanton, went up to reveal These Foolish Things. They turned out to be a dance group of 4 boys and 4 girls. In fact, they were not just a dance group, but the latest in a long line of dance groups, all of which had been started by a choreographer called Chox Morton, known in the business as the Queen of Sheba. The first group he created was called the Young Things, who enjoyed reasonable success in television, cabaret and stage shows, until personnel changes and internal dissensions led to their disbanding and reforming as Some of Those Things and A Thing or Two. This process of binary fission continued so that these new amoeboid groups split again. Some of Those Things became The Thing Songs and The Best Thing. These Foolish Things, the group in Hunstanton, were born from the break-up of The Best Thing. But they retained the 3 trademarks which distinguished all Chuck Sheba's groups. Namely, they all bought their smiles from the same shop. They all mimed to taped singing, and they all did the same dance. This dance consisted of kicking a bit, pointing quite a bit, turning round a lot, and gyrating the hips a great deal. And that was the dance to which the crumbling audience in the Winter Gardens Hunstanton was treated. On this particular occasion it was done to music called Do the Shuffle, but that didn't make any difference. The over-amplified sound died as the 8 dancers froze into a human fan. The lights were doused, and the audience, against the odds, proved they were still alive by lurching into asthmatic applause. They then clutched their prescriptions in anticipation of the wonders of Caramba and Judy. Caramba should have been billed as, and in fact made quite a scene with the local entertainments officer because he wasn't billed as, Caramba, the international illusionist, and Judy. He appeared in a greening tailcoat.